Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Vo, and I would like to welcome you to another session of the webinar for our MetFin Shop Management application. I have with me today Ian Leonard. He will be walking us through the flow of this program and all the well thought out features that were designed and with the feedback from many job shops throughout the years. Hello Ian, welcome.
Good morning. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the MetFin application. And the intention here is that we're going to be going through one module at a time. Okay. So to start with, I'd just like to touch upon the different modules, which will be coming up in a moment. The way the system works is that you enter data starting at the customer module, and then it flows through to the other modules. This is very useful for data entry purposes. You can avoid re-entering duplicate data. And while we are going to be going through this application through a flow of the typical data, do keep in mind that it is a true multi-user environment, so you can have users that are responsible for just entering one type of data, such as job orders or shipping or accounting, and that, not one user needs to be responsible for everything. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go into the customer module here. And I do want to take a moment to touch upon this customer directory screen. You can see that we have a few useful features right here, right from this lookup screen. The first feature is the quick search by. This allows you to look up different entries based on whatever you're searching by. In this case, it's defaulting to customer number, but you can search by other things. You can either select what to search by from this drop-down list, or you can click on the column that you want to search by. So you can search by, customer number, company, last name. So in this case, I'm going to search by company. And this does a partial search feature. So you can begin typing, and the system will go and try to find the closest match to what you've already typed. This prevents you from having to do a lot of keystrokes in order to get to what you're looking for. If you just start typing and you can see the transaction you want, you can then go ahead and work with it as needed. The second useful feature from this lookup screen is the set filter. This allows you to quickly narrow down the list to a finite number of transactions based on whatever criteria you want. So for example, if I wanted to look at customers from a particular state, let's say in this case Massachusetts, I can quickly narrow down the list to just Massachusetts customers. And this can be useful for looking at lots of different information, customers that have tax or customers that have certain term codes, that sort of thing. These features are important to use because they are available throughout the system. So once you get the particular skill set of working with these lookups, that'll be applicable throughout the application. Okay, and one other thing I want to touch on is the print list. This allows you to create your own custom columnar reports, and you can see that it respects the filter we used. In this case, the report has a lot of information on it, so I could, uncheck some things if I want to make the report a little bit more readable. You can see it can be worked with, and you can save the report template you have and reload it for future use. So if you have reports you want to create and run frequently, you can do so.
Ian, could you also show us how to export this data list to, let's say, for example, Excel?
Sure. So from the print list, you have this data view option. And if you click on this, this will show you the raw data that the report is using. And you can see that this is actually still our filtered list. So it only has our Massachusetts customers. From here, you can export to Excel or a CSV file, which is a very neutral format. And all of our reports have this functionality. So not just the print list, but also other reports you might find in other modules have the option to export the raw data. So you can, if you have a report that's pretty close to what you're looking for, you can then export that to Excel and work with the numbers as you need to get what the report you need. Or if you need it to export into other systems such as QuickBooks. Okay, so that is the customer lookup screen. I'm going to go ahead and remove the filter, and we're going to go ahead and create a new customer just to show the typical steps in creating a customer. So I'm going to click on New, or you could also hit the Insert key on the keyboard. Okay, so the information within the customer screen is broken up into groups based off of their relative purpose. The most important information is here on the main screen, which is the customer company name and billing address. So if I enter in new company and just give them an address, now we also have the company telephone, and you have a lot of alternate phone numbers, which might be fax machines or cell phones, company website, main contact. Now, in addition to this main contact, we also have the ability to specify an unlimited number of alternate contacts. So you might have, purchasing, sales, company owner maybe. So we do have that. In addition to the billing address, we also have the ship to address. This is where you'd ship the products. If the ship to address is the same as the billing address, you do not need to specify it. The system will automatically assume that, so you can leave this blank if they're the same. In addition to the default ship to address, we also allow an unlimited number of alternate ship to addresses, which can be used if your customer has multiple drop-off points. Okay. So in addition to that, we have the financial info. This is where you can assign a term code to the customer. The term code determines if the customer is allowed any discount days, such as 1% net 30. So in this case, the customer receives a discount if they pay within 10 days. And in addition to these standard term codes, the term codes also have additional functionality. Let's go and take a quick look at that. So under the term codes, you can specify if there's a message that should be displayed, which might be useful for cash on delivery or prepay customers. You can say, this customer has to pay before doing any work, please contact accounting. You can also prevent a job order or shipping order even being created for those customers. So there's a lot of useful information you can do with these term codes.
While we have the financial information, could you illustrate the security feature where if you don't want to show some of the sensitive piece of information, can you do that within the system?
Absolutely. So for each module and each tab within the module, you can prevent users from seeing the information if desired. In this case, I'm logging in as an administrative user. But if I were to, I'm going to go ahead and launch a second session. And that's another note, is that you can have as many sessions open of the application as you want. So if you have multiple screens, or if you're working on two different things at the same time, you can either tab within multiple screens within the application, or you can have multiple instances of the application open. So I'm actually going to log in as Tim. And you can see that Tim does not even have access to the customer module. So in this case, Tim is denied access to the entire customer module. But you can, the control for the user security is very, very fine. So you could prevent access to individual tabs. So you could give Tim access to edit customer information, but not financial info. You could prevent Tim from even seeing the financial info, or you could give Tim access to look up customers but not edit them.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that's term codes, and we talked that the term code can prevent a job order or shipping order from being created. We do give the option of entering in exemptions. So let's say, for example, you have a prepay customer and they do pay in advance. You can enter an exemption, and then when the job order is created, that exemption will be used up and it'll go back to 0, so that future job orders can't be created without accounting coming in and entering in an additional exemption. In addition to the term code, we also provide credit limit, which gives you another option for controlling customer billing. If a customer has a number of outstanding invoices that go over the credit limit, new job orders cannot be created. If the credit limit is left at 0, then there is no credit limit for that customer. We also have the option for a surcharge. We find that many shops have like an environmental surcharge or fee on top of their invoices. The system allows you to create a default surcharge that applies across the board for all invoices, but you can also have a customer specific surcharge. So let's say that the default surcharge is 3%, and for this particular customer, you want to charge a lesser amount, maybe 1%. You could do 1% and say use the customer surcharge. You can also use this to give customers no surcharge if they have negotiated to have no surcharge, even if you normally do. So it'd be the same approach where you'd say 0% and is surcharged. You can also reverse that, where if you don't have a default surcharge, you could do the surcharge on a per customer basis if most of your customers do not receive that surcharge. Okay. And then down here, we just have useful information about the customer, such as current balance, last payment amount, year-to-date payment amount, credit amount, last payment days, average days. In this case, it's all 0 because this is a brand new customer, so there is no information to show. But this can be a very useful tool for just getting an overview of the customer account. Okay.
Could you talk about a little bit about the billing type there? Well, what's that for? What is that feature?
Sure. So the billing type allows you to specify if the customer receives email, fax, or mail invoices. This previously was used with a software we had which would automate the process of sending it out. We've actually upgraded that software to a different approach where it's not just invoice specific, where it can email out invoices as well as shipping orders or internal reports, statements, all sorts of things. So at this point, the billing type really is just used for internal reference. If you specify a billing type, it will print out on the invoice. So if you're not automating the process, if you're doing it manually, you can tell the invoicer, this is a email invoice and what address it should be emailed to, so that they can do it manually.
Great. Thank you.
Like I said, though, we do have a software that's capable of automating that process, which if you have a large volume of emailed invoices can really save you a lot of time. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So we also have a Notes tab. This is useful for just having a history of the customer account. So you can see that it created a date time stamp. So you can say, created new customer account. And then as time goes on, you can use this to track information about the customer account, such as, promised to pay by, 05/01/2016, that sort of thing. And there's no limit on the amount of information you can store here, so it's very useful for tracking just general notes about a customer. Okay. So here we have documents. This allows you to attach any type of document. So it could be picture, Excel, PDF. And the advantage of this is that you can, if you have like a contract with the customer, maybe you want to store past purchase orders, or maybe even email back and forths, so that you can have a history of the information and communication with the customer. So, like let's say that the customer sends you a request for a particular process, you could store that here, or we also have this feature, the documents feature, within parts, job orders, inventory, purchase order. So anywhere you need to store documents, you can. It depends on what it's related to.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Okay. So we have actions. So similar to the customer notes, this allows you to track things that need to be done. You could say, create a new action to call or follow up with customer on a bill, or you could say, follow it up with customer and they promise to do this. So it's just another view. Maybe gives you a little bit more information, a little bit more control over how that's sorted. We have third-party billing, which is useful if you have another third party doing your invoicing for you, which will print as the remit to on the invoice if specified. We also have e-payment, which is if you process credit cards or electronic payments through a third-party processing, you can actually store that information and automate some of that process. Okay. So
What about the charges? I see a lot of charges.
okay, so charges is used to store additional charge information, such as like let's say that you have a one-time setup fee or some other kind of fee that you want to apply to that customer's parts, then you can do that here. I think typically we find that additional charges are used more in the part because you know what's going to be related to that part. But the system does give you the option of specifying them at the customer level if they should apply to all jobs for that customer.
So if you define the charges here, will the charges be carried forward to the quoting module?
No. So the way it works is that if you define it here, it'll apply when invoicing a shipping order. So that way, any new invoices get updated with the latest customer charges, regardless of when a quote was last touched.
Great, thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, so unless there's any other questions for the customer module.
I see change history. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So in this case, it's a new record, so there'll be no change history. However, if we save out of here and take a look at a different customer, what this does is it allows you to view information that has changed over time about our specific transaction. And similar to filter or print list, this is available throughout the system. So in this case, it looks like none of this information has changed because we can see that the change date and change time are the same. So it doesn't look like that this customer has had any information changed in quite some time. But it is useful, so you can actually see here that we do have due days was set to 30 at some point. So it is useful for going back, and you can see who changed it, and maybe if you have questions about what changed, why, you can go back to that user and say, how come the customer terms changed, or how come the customer credit limit changed. So it's a useful auditing tool.
And is this feature available for all modules within the system?
That is correct.
Right.
Okay. So are there any other questions about the customer module?
I see customer inquiry. Is that option available with this version?
Yes, it is. So customer inquiry is kind of similar to the financial info tab, but it gives you a lot more detail. So for a particular customer, you can look and see any open invoices, recent payments, job orders. This is the same as the financial info summary, contact. So it's just a different way of looking at the customer. But again, it gives you a lot more detailed information. So you can, I don't know if I have a customer that actually has some information. No. Okay, but so that is the intent. So we'd be able to see open invoices or open payments.
Great, thank you, Ian.
Okay, so next we'll be moving on to the quote module.